We are mindlessly addicted to economic growth. We're growth junkies. Would you be okay if your house price stayed the same for the next 20 years, so that no one has to sleep in the street? Would you be okay if your pension was kept to combat climate change? These are difficult questions, personal questions. I like to see my assets grow. My house is on the market right now. How often do we hear a politician say that things will go very bad for the economy and your job if we don't grow GDP, gross domestic product? But gross domestic product only measures economic activity, not wealth. So it doesn't distinguish between desirable or undesirable activities. So disasters, war, crime, disease, all great for GDP. While taking care of children, elderly, the environment, coming up with practical solutions, being healthy, that doesn't grow GDP. Economists tell us that GDP has to grow so that we can solve and afford taking care of problems like poverty and degraded rivers. But what if our mindless addiction to economic growth is actually causing these problems? Then we've arrived in a period of uneconomic growth. I say we're growing uneconomically, where the cost of doing business as usual is larger than the benefit we get from it. We're caught in a trap. And this trap was set about 150 years ago, when horses did the work for us. And then someone figured out that fossil fuel could do even more work for us. Now, at first, the benefits to people were huge. So we started using more and more of it. And then we got addicted. We even developed a neoclassical economic theory that institutionalized this growth addiction. And it goes something like this. Households are rewarded for work by firms, and firms, in return, produce goods and services. Production, consumption is fully entrenched. All the while, it sucks up resources, it spits out waste, and it's gotta keep growing. This was fine 100 years or so ago, but, in theory, this worked well 100 years ago. But in reality, we live on a finite planet with 7.5 billion people and growing to 10. And the sun is the only true energy source. So this neoclassical economic theory describes people as the economic man, Homo economicus. He is rational. He's self-centered. He maximizes his utility and his profits. I bet you wouldn't put that on your dating profile. Would you? We are tethered to money. But money no longer represents real value. In 2010, the wheat harvest in the United States was traded 73 times for speculation. Now, that year, there was a drought and a famine, but financial institutions earned $1 billion in speculation. Now, if you had the right pension scheme, then that would grow. If not, inequality grew. Just last week, Forbes reported that currently there are 5 men that own half of all the wealth in the world. That means on average, each of them have as much wealth as 750 million people. It's a pyramid scheme. I say we're mindlessly addicted to economic growth. You may say, addicted, yeah, but mindlessly, no. We know the consequences of our addiction. We know that climate change is real. We know that 30 to 40% of our food goes to waste. And we know that if we do something about it, that could make a decent dent into resolving the climate challenge. 1 billion people are still under or malnourished, while 2 billion people are overweight or obese. Yes, we can feed all of humanity, but not with the current system. We can produce healthier food. You can even grow lettuces in your living room. But would you be willing to dig up your own spuds? Or do you prefer to get them wrapped in plastic from the supermarket? Addicts don't respond very well to being told that their habit is bad for them. What does work for an addict is to have new goals, new models, and a shift in mindset. And the good news is there are new goals. Just last year, 2016, all countries of the United Nations signed up for the Sustainable Development Goals. There is a global agenda for 2030. And this is an exciting agenda because every one of us can contribute to it. This is not just for governments to deliver upon. So, if you want to stand up for water, goal number 6. If you want to experience the magic of working together, goal 17. There's one tiny problem with this agenda. Have you spotted it? Goal number 8. Meaningful jobs and economic growth. We cannot grow our way out of this mess with the same mindset that got us into it. The great thinker Buckminster Fuller said, "You can't change a thing by fighting the existing reality. To change anything, build a new model." And there are plenty of new models out there, plenty of new economic models out there. In a sharing economy, people share before buying. In a circular economy, companies will consider waste a resource. In an ecological economy, the society invests in nature and people. These are all strands of thinking that can be woven together into a fabric of solutions. But best of all, these new models, they come with a shift in mindset. So, I would like you to try on this new habit. From now on, tomorrow, next week, whenever someone, anyone, a politician, an economist, your chief financial advisor, your real estate agent, your spouse, say financial and economic growth, stop and think. Is this growing a problem or a solution? And then remember when you were part of a solution and how that felt. And then do something. Take a small step in the right direction. And celebrate. Don't forget to celebrate. Housing and growth is a hot topic in Wellington these days. Stop. Think. Do we really need bigger houses while isolating people? Early 2000s, I was part of a group of people who built an eco-village in Vermont in the United States. None of us were developers, but we bought a piece of land the size of 48 rugby fields. It was zoned to be cut up in 27 rugby fields. But instead, we clustered 27 houses on 3 rugby fields. We preserved the stream and the forest, and the houses were built in an environmentally friendly way with solar panels. And the community supports a farmer to create healthy food, and they guarantee her income. And some of the houses are made affordable. So here's another story that I want to tell you. Growth of dairy and water pollution. Stop. Can we think about this in a different way? So last year, I worked with Nauru. That's an iwi in the Taranaki-Wanganui area. And a stream had gotten contaminated. And so they could no longer grow watercress in it. And then some of the elders started to grow watercress at home. And then iwi leaders asked the community to come up with ideas of what you could possibly do with watercress. And the community came up with an abundance of creativity. By the end of this year, a company will be launched. And here's the the beauty of this story. Not only will this company deliver, meaningful jobs for people, but part of the profit is envisioned to be reinvested back into the stream that inspired the idea in the first place. Reciprocity, giving back, that is key in a regenerative economy. A big shift is happening. In 1889, corporations were given legal personhood and recognized as non-human entities. And here we are, 130 years later, and we are demanding that the same right is given to oceans and rivers. So I found myself, 2015, advocating for an oceans trust in Paris at World Oceans Day. Many others have long argued for an atmospheric trust. Iwi have even longer argued for legal personhood for rivers. And here we are. Just this year, the Wanganui River was given legal personhood. This is the first river in the world. New Zealand is leading this. Now, Kaitiaki, guardians, get to figure out how we as people need to behave toward the Wanganui River. So what if we see ourselves as part of nature rather than masters of nature? What if we scale up the Nauru experience to a water catchment area? What if our godlike technology is used to create the circular, sharing, ecological and regenerative economy, while drawing on people's ingenuity, supported by universal basic income? I say we can overcome our addiction to economic growth. So many people are waking up from the growth illusion and creating new realities. There's enough for everyone. This is not a trap, it's an opportunity. We have new goals and new models. So, please, next time when you hear someone talk about economic growth, stop and think. Am I growing a problem or a solution?